Let's see, pull this out. Blew an ECU fuse, and I think what happened really is since I let it sit in storage for so long, the battery has been completely drained. That's why I threw that P0165 code. So since it threw that P1065 code, when this happened, I related the two to each other. I'm pretty sure it's because the ECU, the random access memory on it, the internal battery died because it sat for 4 months. That's what threw the code, and this is completely separate from that. But I was relating the two, and that's why I pulled the entire wiring harness apart, trying to figure out why I got that code. It's an intelligent power distribution module, which kept blowing the fuse. And then I pulled out, I sent in my ECU, had it bench tested, and the ECU was perfectly fine. Freaking tore everything apart. Almost gave up. Replacing the intelligent power distribution module. People saying the battery rubs on this right here, this little case. So I sat and pulled it all apart, went through each wire. It's the red and white wire is the one that actually runs the power to the ECU. So it blew this fuse again, just turned the key on. Instantly, it blew the fuse in this. Another commenter who said something about over time you need to put a better grounding system on this engine. So I took that advice too. I'm going to put a new ground wire, and then I just put it somewhere here on the front of the timing cover, which is this little bracket that holds like the wiring harness together. And then I just routed it down here. I like this location because first off, this is where it melted, so over here extra ground isn't going to hurt. Second, the wiring harness here, it doesn't really touch the timing cover, but it gets close. So now I have this extra cushion, which is this ground wire underneath of it to make sure that these wires don't get melted, which is good. And then here's the location I decided to go with. Let's see, just this little bracket down here at the bottom. Because I cleaned every single ground that I have, you know, like battery ground. I did all of them. And here's like my tray. I know you guys said it fills with water, but mine's not filling with water because I live somewhere where it doesn't rain. Well, since you guys said it was a battery tray, I've never actually pulled it out before. I decided to pull it out just to check it out, see how dirty it is. I know if I lived somewhere where it rained a lot, it would make perfect sense that this would get clogged with leaves. And then it looks like shit though. It's pretty dirty. I'm gonna clean this bitch all up because I'm all excited that I'm gonna get the G back, dude. Like, I gave up on it for a while. I couldn't believe it. Like, I thought the oil catch can, like this wiring harness, it had a little bit of oil on it. I thought maybe that was it. Like, just trying to chase this freaking, oh, it's just ridiculous, dude. I had dog food down here, but you know, look at this wiring harness, which after I opened it up, I can't believe this wiring harness looks like this. This looks like shit. Like, there's no way. So when I got a new engine for free, which I'll tell you guys about that later, I was gonna wait for my 200,000 mile review. They must have tapped into this wiring harness because they must be doing something, because this is no way a stock wiring harness looks like that. Because what I'm thinking is, when I got a new engine due to oil consumption back at like 65,000 miles, which I never told you guys about, but I have all the paperwork to prove it. And they must have the wiring harness somehow and then put these test leads on it where they were tapping in to figure out where they had a short on the wire. Because I was like, what are these red things? Because I pulled them off and they're just little taps into the wire. There's all kinds of this wiring harness. So this was a nightmare, dude. Like, it was a freaking nightmare. So you know, my ECU I tore out my freaking radio. Like, I tore out everything trying to figure this out. All right, so to do a test run, I just hooked up the ECU right here, or the ESM, but it's really the ECU. It's the wiring harness with none of the coil packs in. And I turn the key, and I'll show you what happens. Well, actually, the battery is disconnected. So when I turn the key, the fans don't come on instantly, and the security red light isn't solid. So that means that the coil pack is definitely where the short is. But then usually when a coil pack goes bad, it always blisters up. And you can't see it because it's kind of hidden, but if you look on this side, look at that blister. That blister is huge. So, unbelievable. An ECU fuse blowing ends up being a coil pack, obviously. it sent the wrong voltage to it, which is what blew it, and then made me think I had a short and a rodent ate a wire, when it really just comes down to using a coil pack, one that's like an aftermarket one. It lasted about 4 years, which is all right. Since it's free with a lifetime warranty, I'm going to put in another one, but I'm going to go OEM this time. I guess I'll give it a little credit because I did drive it across the desert in Arizona, so I don't know if that heat played a factor in it. But either way, like, yeah, that's pretty obvious. All right, I think what really threw me off track too is when I got the engine code P0165, which was an ECU short. So for some reason, it just made me check the wiring harness, everything else, but instead of like just listening into the car, because it just started to idle like shit and run like a diesel truck, like it does when it misfires. Because usually if it's a bad coil pack, you get a P300, a misfire. I've never gotten a P1065, which is like the code of death. So, and this is the worst I've ever seen a coil ever look. I've never seen one where it actually like it pooped out plastic. Like, look at that. There's a big old chunk of it right here, and then a huge blister. So I'm hoping the grounding issue is it, because that would make sense why it is a P1065, is because it was getting a short because of the ground, which is this didn't ground out properly and sent the wrong voltage. So hopefully that ground wire that I added fixes this issue, so this doesn't ever happen again. I went back through the comment section that you guys did. Appreciate it very much, because you guys have helped. You know, I've helped you, but you guys finally like seriously helped me. Like, I almost gave up on the G, and you know, after I did that fake sale on eBay, realizing how I won't get anything out of this car when I have so much money put into it. Like, it's funny how it came almost true, where I was thinking about selling it. So shout out to Joe. Joe, I remember you from Dallas. You were in the Dallas DFW G35 group, and then I'll put up the other names of the people that actually said it was a coil pack. I don't know why. I seriously thought, since it was in storage, like everyone kept trying to say, it couldn't be a coil pack. It had to be a rat nibbled on some wire somewhere. Seriously, like, I went through all this nonsense. I honestly, I can't even believe it. I can't even believe it. So this is the first coil pack that I've seen with the blister on it, but I'm sure the other ones will have it too. But I mean, that's pretty bad. Like, and that's the burnt electronics I smelled. Because if you look at it, it was melting plastic. And I'm sitting right there, right? And that's the melting plastic I smelled. And then it did misfire. So when it blew the fuse, the exhaust sounded like complete crap, right? And then all of a sudden I had the flashing check engine light, which means it was misfiring, and then it just died. And then after that, each time I replaced the fuse, it still wouldn't start. The first time I replaced the fuse, it started. So what's interesting is I threw this code of P1065 back in Phoenix. It drove all the way from Phoenix to San Diego before it started doing this shit. So, I mean, luckily it didn't happen in the middle of Death Valley when it was like 115. This would have been impossible. And the problem is, because this car has a tune on it, the ECU's not stock. Every shop I talk to won't touch it because they're like, well, I can't touch it, it's a modified ECU. So they're just not willing to touch it. So that's kind of some of the issues you have when you start modifying your car. First off, you never get any of the money back if you decide to sell it. Second, if you ever have any issues and you can't figure it out, or you don't have a YouTube channel with following and a big huge community like the VQs, you're kind of stuck up shit creek. So these are aftermarket coil packs. Yes, they've been on here for 4 years, but not very much mileage because I don't drive this car. And they do have a lifetime warranty, so I'm going to use it to get the car to start, to get it out of this Del Mar area that I'm in. But I'm going to go with OEM coil packs like other people have said. So I couldn't believe a coil pack is what blew my ECU fuse, made it, I couldn't connect to the ECU. And it's funny because in that first video I made for you guys, that's what I first thought it was a coil pack. I'm like, oh, a car is acting like it's a coil pack. It's running like shit. But usually when a coil pack goes, the car will still run, or it'll at least connect to the ECU. So I've never had this happen. Well, what's interesting is I went back and looked at my YouTube videos. So my very first video that I made on the coil pack issue is it was randomly dying with no engine code, and I couldn't ever figure out what it was. Well, it was these aftermarket coil packs. So since they were free, I went ahead and just put new ones in. So the first time it lasted 3 years before I started having it randomly die with no code. This time it died with no code, but I couldn't connect to the ECU and it's blowing the ECU fuse. And I'm for sure that is what it is. New coils installed, 1, 2, and 3. So this is cylinder 2, 4, and 6. Look, I even got my old school labeling. It's still there. It says 6. Because you can get these connectors backwards and then you're all screwed up. So that's why I labeled them a long time ago. And the labeling's still there. That's hilarious. Look at that. Cylinder 6. So after all that, we'll she start. Turn the key on. It's been a little while. Let that fuel pump prime for a second. Let her do a little beep sequence. And now we will see. I'm gonna hit this this little blue screen here. See, I pulled out this entire unit because I also checked to see where I did my radar detector to see the cord that I plugged it into for power if it came loose. I didn't record it because I was just so angry trying to fix it. So let's see here. Oh yeah, finally. That took forever, but she's back, guys. Oh yeah.